Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be on air this hour and to once again talk on matters related to leadership. Over the past months, I've had the privilege to be doing this, and I'm so grateful to God that again and again I continue to have the privilege and opportunity to come on live and to share some teachings with us online. Today I'm broadcasting all the way from Latvia in Nasarawa State. I've had to travel away from my home base and a number of things have brought me here. But all the same, I've taken time out to be able to share one or two things with us. So today I'm going to be talking about multi-generational legacy. Multi-generational legacy. I've spoken about legacy before and how you can build a legacy for yourself long after you are gone. Now, I continue to hear people call certain persons legends. My thought is that we have tended to abuse the word legacy, and so anybody just gets the word a legend, even when the person has not really left a legacy behind. In my view, it is only those who have created a legacy, who have left something worthwhile, that should be considered as legend, not just everybody. And it is in that respect that I spoke when I about legacy when I spoke, and I, by way of highlight, stated that there are a number of things that you need to do to be able to leave behind certain legacies. And chief of these things is the fact that you have got to train people. People will outlast buildings or buildings. People will outlast any material thing that you keep on earth. Okay? People will outlast them. For thousands of years, there are men like Aristotle, like and so many others who have trained people, who discipled people, and without necessarily building anything. And when they left the world, they left a good name, they left a concrete legacy for themselves. Others like Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther, in fact, and a whole lot of others, Mother Teresa, and a few others, didn't necessarily need to build anything. They left a legacy behind, and they left a good name for themselves. So that's one secret about leaving a legacy behind. You have got to build people. You have got to deposit in the life of humans, so that once you are gone, what you have deposited in their lives, they can carry through and also deposit in the lives of others, and those others will deposit in the life of others, and so on and so forth. That's how legacies are built. Today I want to talk about multi-generational legacy. And I'm going to anchor this on the life of an individual who has left a multi-generational legacy as well. Okay? So if you are with me, and I thank you for coming online, please join me as I speak on the life of Jonathan Edwards, a great American theologian who had lived for just about 54 years, but had left behind a big legacy that hundreds of years after, members of his family in particular have continued to draw from what he sold many years ago. Okay? A Chinese proverb says, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. Okay? We also have similar things in Africa that tend to suggest that any human who embarks on a journey for himself or yes, for his sake, and others are not, will most naturally lose the opportunity of will lose the opportunity of going very, very far. So these are some things that I want us to take a look at, and I'm hoping that as we do this today, um, a number of things will fall in place. But by the way, before I continue, I would like to say that I've organized a Zoom webinar scheduled for the 26th of this month, which is just a few days along the way, the weekend on Saturday precisely. That Zoom webinar is on the qualities of good leadership, and I would like to carry people along to be able to teach them what the good qualities of good leadership is. And so I would like to call on people to join and register for that webinar. If you go to my Facebook page, Shedrack Bako, or you go to the Instagram page, b.t.lead, or you come on my WhatsApp status or the office WhatsApp status. It's on the number with 08037873045. Now 45. Now, if you go on that, you will see the status and you will read about this Zoom webinar that comes up on the 26th. I encourage a number of people to, or everyone listening and watching now, to register for that Zoom webinar. I'm sure it will be an eye-opening opportunity for you. It will be a situation where you can encounter leadership firsthand. You will make an assessment of yourself to discover if the qualities that should make you an outstanding leader are found inside you. So that's what that webinar is all about. Let's go to today's lesson. Like I said, today I'm talking about multi-generational legacy. And a number of us have tended to think about generations after us. We have tended to think about the children we give birth to, that if we're married, the children we give birth to, what will happen to them, and so on and so forth. So most times we consider or we concern more ourselves about what they eat, what they drink, and not how they live. Concern ourselves more about what they wear, what schools they go to, and we do not consider what we're leaving behind for them. Okay, what we're leaving behind for them. We've had this saying that the best inheritance any father or parent can leave for a child is education. Well, that has some element of truth in it, but I do not agree that that is the best thing to be left behind. I do not agree. And as we go along with today's teaching, you'll get to understand why I say that it is not enough to give children education and think you have left an inheritance for them. It is not enough. There are other things that you must consider, other factors that must come in place for you to secure your children and children's children's future. Now, we're looking at the story of Jonathan Edwards. Who was Jonathan Edwards? Okay, I just mentioned that Jonathan Edwards is an American theologian. At his time, he was extremely popular and very, very influential. He was quite influential during his time. And of course, at his time, um, he broke certain records, so to speak, even though these records were not kept. But after he had passed on, a number of people began to consider those things as records. Now, what were the things that Jonathan Edwards did or left behind that is influential or has become instrumental to look at his life? Now, many years ago, a study was done to look at the life of Jonathan Edwards against that of someone called Max Jukes. Max Jukes also lived about the same time with Jonathan Edwards in the United States of America. There are no confirmed reports of the truth about Max Jukes, but one thing is confirmed that Jonathan Edwards lived, and he lived the kind of life that people say that he lived. And I think for us that should be our first lesson. Okay? There is no doubt that Jonathan Edwards lived, but there are some doubts about Max Jukes' life as to whether he lived or not, or there are even doubts about the things that were written down concerning him, if they were entirely true or not. Okay? But this is instrumental about Jonathan Edwards and the kind of legacies that he left behind. We're told that over the years, from Jonathan Edwards' family, the United States of America has had one vice president, okay, 13 college presidents, of course, what we call chancellors also in Nigeria is what the Americans refer to as college presidents or vice chancellors. That's what Americans refer to as college presidents. Okay? He has had 78 military officers, 90 public servants. From that trail of his family, he's had over 100 pastors, over 100 lawyers. He's had 3 Supreme Court justices. He's had 3 U.S. Senate members, and then he's had about 13. Okay, I've mentioned that. All right. Then about 80 authors and well over 60 doctors. From the family tree of Jonathan Edwards, these were the things that were traced. And by the way, Jonathan Edwards had 11 children, and he poured his life and attention on these 11 children. In fact, it was reported, okay, that in spite of his tight schedule, because as a theologian, he was also a preacher, and that he spent about 13 hours of each day in his studies, studying scripture, studying books, studying other things, and he spent 13 hours before he came out to meet anybody. But it is recorded that Jonathan Edwards always created time for his children, and at least 1 hour a day was carved out for his own 11 children. And where that 1 hour he related with them, he mingled with them, and I'm sure within that 1 hour he heard their fears, he heard their concerns, he heard about their needs and so on and so forth. Now these are what Jonathan Edwards left behind as his legacy over time. Okay? As his legacy over time. What more can we learn from the life of Jonathan Edwards? There are so many things that we can learn from the life of Jonathan Edwards. And the first is the fact that Jonathan Edwards lived only for 54 years or thereabouts. Okay? He lived only for 54 years. Now, and after that time, he passed on. In fact, he died of smallpox. That's what it was reported, that he died of smallpox. Now, it is interesting to note, okay, that Jonathan Edwards did not live very, very long. And my challenge from this is the fact that you do not need to live 100 years on earth to be able to leave a legacy. You do not need all the time in the world to leave a legacy. Methuselah lived for over 969 years. Yet, there is nothing apart from the fact that he lived the longest years on earth. There is nothing that is recorded against the name of Methuselah. But Martin Luther King Jr. lived only for 39 years. Now, there is no Black civil rights movement in the United States of America and the world over that does not have an anchor with that man called Martin Luther King Jr. In fact, when I usually teach and mention his name, I tell people that he was deprived the opportunity of being an adult. Okay? He was a youth all his life, from birth to death. Okay? If we describe youth as people from 18 to 38, it will tell you that he was a young man. He lived the life of a youth and died the life of a youth. But he had left a legacy long after he passed on, to the extent that people like Barack Obama, a black man born by a Kenyan father and an American mother, became the president of the United States. Why? Because it's not about how long you live, it is about what you leave behind. There are so many other persons that live a very short life, but what they left behind within those periods of their life is by far greater than what any human being can imagine. The great Jewish teacher called Jesus Christ spent only about 33 years on earth and returned back to his source, the heavens, to his Father in the heavens. Now, those 33 years period, he has left such a huge legacy that the world over, there is not a single second that passes by that his name is not mentioned. And this is what Jonathan Edwards also stands for. Just at 54 years, he had left such a huge legacy that long after he has passed on, hundreds of years after he has passed on, his name still rings a bell in the hearts and life of people, particularly in the United States of America. Okay? Again, I said, Jonathan Edwards was regarded as one of America's most important and original philosophical thinkers or theologians. We learn from the life of Jonathan Edwards that he had a purpose. He knew and understood what his purpose was. He pursued his purpose with dexterity. He poured his heart out to pursue his purpose. And because he poured his heart out to pursue his purpose, he lived out his purpose. Okay? Now, if you want to leave a multi-generational legacy, you must know what your purpose is in life. And I'll say this, there is not a single individual on earth today that was not created with a purpose in mind. There is not a single individual. In fact, the child that is just born as I speak right now has a bundle of purpose in the inside of him. And it doesn't take much to discover your purpose. I've done several teachings on discovering your purpose. So you can go on the YouTube page or YouTube channel, Born to Live YouTube channel. Watch that teaching on purpose. Subscribe, like and subscribe to that channel so that you can always have these videos come to you. You can also check on my Facebook page, Shedrack Bako, for a teaching on purpose, and I'm sure it will be of help to you. Okay? What else do we learn from Jonathan Edwards' life? At the young age of 13, because of how studious he was, he became a college student at Yale College. Now, Yale College is a big college in the United States of America. That's where men like Ben Carson studied, okay? And a whole lot of others who studied there. Now, this man was just 13 years when he gained admission into that college. Why? Because he was studious, okay? He loved study. He regarded study as something worthy of being pursued. Okay, so these are the things that we learn from Jonathan Edwards' life. What else do we learn? Jonathan Edwards was passionate about whatsoever he committed himself to do. His passion ensured that where there seemed not to be an opportunity, his passion broke the doors open for him. He was passionate about theology, he was passionate about philosophical theology, that, at every time he wasn't satisfied with whatever he saw. He kept digging deeper, 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 and deeper until he found solutions to some of the most troubling questions in the hearts of men. He was passionate. He was also a hard worker. Because Jonathan Edwards loved working, he took up a preaching engagement on a temporary basis in several churches at the same time. And every time he felt dissatisfied, he left a church, went somewhere else to start something new. He was a hard worker. And if you want to leave a multi-generational legacy behind, you must work hard. And one other interesting thing about Jonathan Edwards is the fact that he rejected status quo. He was never satisfied when things were said to him that it could not be done, or that he lacked the capacity to express certain things. Or, that he say, for example, he rises up and tells Jonathan Edwards that there is no door in a particular wall. Jonathan Edwards will not take that as status quo. He will try to create a new status quo. Now, people who challenge the standing order always leave a multi-generational legacy for people. You'll recall, if you're a student of geography or history, that there was a time that the world thought that the earth was flat as a table, so that if you travel to the end of the earth, you will fall off a cliff, and then nobody knows where you will go to. Until some other scientists did a study and said, no, the earth isn't flat. Actually, the earth is spherical. He had mentioned that the earth is spherical. A lot of people thought he had blasphemed. A death sentence was placed on his head. But eventually, the earth realized and recognized that the earth was truly spherical. Now imagine that he took the status quo and thought he should just behave the way that every other person behaves. For you to leave a multi-generational legacy, you must challenge certain things. Certain things. There are groups in Nigeria, for example, where I'm broadcasting from, that believe that they were born to live. And I always say, well, they are correct, except that their correctness is partial. Because every human being created and born of God and of his mother was born to live. And that we must understand and accept and admit. And again, if you want to know how real that is, follow these teachings that I'm doing, and also go to the try to apply or register for the Zoom webinar that I have, and you'll find out what it means to be a leader. Again, so if you ask, how do you get to the webinar? There is on the scroll bar right now, certain numbers scrolling past. The last number has it on the status. The last number 08037873045 have on the status the flyer for registration. So if you want to register, please join that webinar, and you would know what it means to be a leader. Okay. Now keep the comments coming. Thank you, my sister Salatu Dorati Haruna. Thank you for hailing and acknowledging me. Please, if you are out there, just keep the comments coming. If you have any query, post it. I will take a look at it. I have great respect for your comments. and I will not be worried about whatever statement that you make. I will just be concerned about improving this teaching session so that you and I can learn from one another. Okay? We're looking at Jonathan Edwards' life as um, the example or standard for living a multi-generational legacy. Now, if you're just joining me, I said Jonathan Edwards was a theologian, okay, a philosophical theologian. He lived in the 1700s, okay, but years after, hundreds of years after he passed on at the age of 54, members of his family, direct free family line, have continued to make the greatest impact in the United States of America. And my thought is that we live that kind of life and pass on certain legacies to the great grandchildren that we are yet to meet. Okay? Now, to be able to do that, how do you leave multi generational legacies behind? The first instruction for me is that you must determine to lead well and to lead your family. If you are married as a male figure in the family, you have a huge responsibility to show an example of what it means to live by your life. And this is why I say I disagree with, not entirely, but I have a bit of a query when people tell you that the best legacy or the best inheritance you can leave for your children is education. That is fairly correct, but it is not absolutely true. The complete truth will include determination to lead and to lead well and to lead your family very well. You must have that determination. Jonathan Edwards lived very well. He showed a perfect example with his life. To the extent that out of his 11 children, it was recorded that about 4 or 5 became pastors like himself. They loved what he did and they desired to run after him. They desired to take after his footsteps. I have a daughter now who continues to say that she wants to be a lawyer. And I honestly ask myself, what am I doing even as a lawyer that would have encouraged her to take to that path? And I just realized that it is not how I practice law, it is how I have lived before her. That she's seen, she's taking note of, and she's now thinking to even follow in line with my career and profession. So for you to lead or to leave a multi-generational legacy, you must determine to lead, and to lead well, you must determine to lead your family. You must determine to lead your family. Okay? Now, you must know that there is a war against the family. What we used to know as families have been defined and redefined right now, that a number of people are lost. They do not even know what a family looks like. Those who are homosexual, those who are gay, now have in some Western world, okay, gotten rights given by the court to have 2 males bringing up children. And one of the males pretends to be a woman, the other male pretends to be the man or the husband of a wife. Now that isn't how a family lives. And whether you like it or not, the children will grow up very confused. That's the truth about life. Or you have 2 women marrying each other and raising children and claiming that they are living or raising a family. That cannot work. It takes a man to impregnate a woman, and it takes a woman to have a womb to carry children. That's how life has made it. That's how our Creator started this life for us. Unfortunately, a number of people have confused what a family looks like, or what it means, or what should mean, and therefore they are lost as to what they do. There's a war against the family. Jonathan Edwards had a wife and 11 children, and all the children knew who a father was, and they knew who a mother was. No wonder a Chinese proverb says it is harder to lead a family than a nation. It is harder to lead a family than a nation. Now, imagine that you even have a standard family, as family should be, with the husband and father as the head of the home, the mother as the supporter of the head of the home, and then children. Even with that status, there are still confusion in the hearts of the children. There are still troubles in the hearts of parents. Then talk more of families that are completely imbalanced. No wonder the Chinese proverb says it is harder to lead a family than a nation. Sadly, in the families today, the boys are at risk. We have so much about girl child education, girl child jobs, equality in workplaces, and so on and so forth. We have so much being said about the female folk, but unfortunately, there is little that is being said about the very little is being said about the boy child. And sadly, we train fantastic girls only to hand them over to unprepared husbands. So the boys are at risk. And my challenge this afternoon will be to every man, every male man who has a boy, to pay attention to the boy. Okay? You must live your life in such a way that it is so clear and evidently clear that you are the male and that God has given you leadership over the family. Not when I say leadership, I'm not talking about being autocratic. No. Okay? You must recognize the role of everybody in the home. And as a male man, you must play your life in such a way that the boys know the difference between a male man and a. Okay? That difference must be very, very clear. No wonder a wise man once said that a boy is the only thing God can use to make a man. And I agree. A boy is the only thing God can use to make a man. You cannot use a lady, a female, to make a man. It is impossible. You cannot use a man to make a man. Okay? He has already become the man. And as a father, how do you determine to lead well and to lead well your family? One, I said, you must be available in the family. Today we have runaway fathers. I used to have a neighbor who, but well, incidentally then they didn't have a child, who constantly had a challenge with his wife. And every time he shared these issues with me, I encouraged him, I counseled him, I tried to lead and to guide him. But you know, one day the thing became too much for him and too overbearing. What did he do? He simply packed his things and moved out of the house and left the home for the woman. Now, this is common everywhere in the world, again, especially in the western part of the world, where you have mothers who are claiming to be single mothers, raising 3, 4 children, okay, all at the same time, without a father figure in the house. So the boy grows up not knowing the father, not knowing the role of the father, not knowing what a male man should be doing in the family, and so he grows up being confused. No wonder boys now think that they are female, and they are even able to marry boys like themselves and think that they are having a family. So number one, to leave a legacy for your family, You must be available and available physically. That's what it means to be available. You must be available physically to guide, to instruct, to lead, and to show an example for everyone around you. You must also be available emotionally. Emotionally. There are families where children have been pushed out to go and become pregnant. For example, ladies, young boys have been pushed out and have become robbers, have become drug addicts. Why? Because nobody was available for them emotionally. Nobody was there to listen to them. Nobody was there to hear them speak about the challenges that they are going through in life. Nobody was there. I know the story of a family where a young girl always tried to cuddle herself around her parents. And every time the parents kept shoving her away, they thought, well, why are you behaving like a cat? That's what they specifically said. Why are you behaving like a cat? It's a cat that likes to glue itself to the bodies of people. Go away, you cat, as it were. And of course, she went away. Eventually, one day, she came back pregnant to the house. Why? Because she had been pushed out, knowingly or unknowingly. So, Father, you must be physically available. You must also be emotionally available. You must be so emotionally available that your girls are confident to hug you. They are confident to pour out their emotions at you or on you, so that you are available, so they can understand what it means to have a rapport between a male and a female. You must be physically available. And like I said earlier on, Jonathan Edwards, all right, spent at least 1 hour of each day with his children. It was a deliberate thing for him. He spent at least 1 hour every day with his children, and that helped him very, very well. Now, again, to leave a legacy, a multi-generational legacy. And by the way, when I say multi-generational legacy, I mean a legacy that outlasts more than one generation. A legacy that goes beyond a single generation. Jonathan Edwards died in the 1700s, but thousands, or well, rather hundreds of years after he had passed on. Okay? Hundreds of years after he had passed on, okay, his family has continued to present very important personalities in the United States of America, to the extent that one of them became a vice president of the country. To live a multi-generational legacy, you must live a self-disciplined life. Self-discipline is the ability to put rules on yourself, even when the world does not set those rules against you. Again, I've done a teaching on self-discipline. I would encourage you to go back to my Facebook page, Shedrack Bako, or go back to the YouTube channel, Born to Lead, and check for these teachings on self-discipline. It is not usually easy to discipline yourself, but every time you discipline yourself, the results are great and enormous. Every time. If you set for yourself boundaries as to where to eat, when to eat, how to eat, I tell you, you will live a healthier, longer life than others who do not have boundaries about what to eat and where to eat. I would recommend that you watch on TV or on YouTube my 600-pound life and see what it means to lack self-discipline. People who have eaten to stupor to the point that they grew so big that they needed surgery to be able to tackle their growing too big. Why? Because they lack self-discipline. Of course, a number of them give several reasons and excuses. But do these excuses and will these excuses hold water? That's the question that every one of us should be asking ourselves. So to live a multi-generational legacy, you must live a self-disciplined life. You must also live a clean life. So self-discipline helps you live a clean life. And when I say a clean life, if you are a father, that will mean, for example, that you speak unto your wife alone. That will mean that you know when to go out and when to come in. That will mean that you know who you relate with and who you shouldn't be relating with. That would mean avoiding taking bribes in the office. That's what it means to live clean. Now, Gregory says this. He says the hand that means to make another clean must not itself be dirty. True. As a lawyer, I know of a Latin maxim that says that those who come to equity must come with clean hands. This should be simple for us to understand. If you come to equity, you must come with clean hands. You cannot defraud someone and lose the proceeds of that fraud and then hope to use the cost to get the benefit from someone else. It's never going to work. To live a self-disciplined life and to live a multi-generational legacy, okay? You must also team up with your wife if you are married, and the wife must team up with her husband. Steve Farrar says, mature leadership from a husband makes it easy for the wife to coexist with him. Matured leadership. Do you provide matured leadership to your wife and to your children? Do you provide matured leadership that people should look up to you for? That your family should look up to you for? And your family should be proud of you wherever you go. Now, to leave a multi-generational legacy, you must team up with your spouse. Perhaps that's what I should have mentioned. You must team up with your spouse. But I'm using the male figure as the example for the teachings that I'm doing. Jonathan Edwards was a male figure. He left a lasting legacy, not just for his children, but for his children's children and for the children's children's children. Again, what does it mean? And what does it take to leave a multi-generational legacy? Now, in addition to the things that we mentioned, here are a few tips also for you to be able to live a multi-generational leadership. Every multi-generational leader, had a vision. What is a vision? The vision is a mental picture of an expected end. A mental picture of a beautiful tomorrow, a beautiful next year, a beautiful 20 years from now. That's what a vision is and what it does for people. Jonathan Edwards had a vision, and so he left a vision for his family, and his family has followed that vision over time. There's really any generation after him that didn't have pastors amongst them. And vision is one of the qualities of good leadership. Vision, the ability to see far, even from today. What are some other qualities that you need to leave behind to be able to leave a multi-generational legacy? And I'm sorry, I'm just noticing that the spelling of multi-generational has an NE missing. It's multi-generational. I'm very sorry about that. I'll try to correct it. Now, not only do they have a vision, they have a passion. What is a passion? A passion is what drives you. Is the energy you get from having a vision. There are so many people who are driving their lives by this passion. It is the thing, what they are passionate about is what keeps them up late and wakes them up very early in the morning. So what is your passion? Do you have a passion? And then those who live multi-generational legacies also are involved in mission. Excuse me, vision is the power to break your vision into bits and pieces, to be able to chew them, to be able to achieve them. That's a layman's definition of what mission is. All right? So mission is putting in place all the strategies that will help you achieve your vision. And people in that category will also include people with integrity. Integrity is being right in the eyes of God, not in the eyes of men. Let me just summarize what the word integrity means. Okay? It's from the original word is from the Greek dictionary or from the Greek language, where integra means one. Integra means one. And so a person of integrity is one whole person at work and at home, in the daytime and at night time. You do not see him conflicting his life. You do not see him attempting to deceive people about who he is. And people are never unsure about who he is. Multi-generational legacies or multi-generational leaders are people who are courageous. Courageous people do extraordinary things. Courageous people succeed when the weak and faint-hearted fail. For you to live a multi-generational, you must be a courageous person. You must be bold to look at the lions in the eye and say, this is where I'm going to, and then pursue your dream and achieve it. A courageous leader will ensure that the status quo does not remain the same, even though he or she knows that the status quo can be altered, or that for attempting to alter the status quo, consequences will arise. He or she knows that. But of course, like we've learned, courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving on in spite of the fear. That's what courage is. And the multi-generational leader leaving a legacy always is a person of wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to do things right at the appropriate time. Thank you, because these are some of the things that we learn in being a multi-generational leader who leaves a multi-generational legacy. Again, I challenge you to live life like Jonathan Edwards did. Jonathan Edwards left a multi-generational legacy behind. I would like to stop here and to appreciate you so well for coming online with me. And like I said, okay, please go to my status, okay, or the status on the status of the number with 08037873045 and check out the flyer that is meant for the Zoom webinar this Saturday and register just as you come online. Please do so. There are other platforms like the Instagram b.t.lead will take you to the Born to Lead page, and then you can see the flyer and be a part and parcel of that registration. My personal Facebook page, Shedrack Bako, you can also dig deep in that Facebook page and you'll see the flyer. I expect a number of people to register, and I expect you to be a part and parcel of that registration and to share in the great leadership as we move along. I'd like to thank you at this time and call it a day, even as I appreciate you for having stayed this long with me and for sending in comments from a number of persons who have taken time to share their comments. Thank you so much for such a time, and I pray that you have a blessed day ahead of you, and indeed a blessed moment for the rest of the week. See you then. Bye-bye.